My favorite thing was when I saw Caitlyn in the green room, she's like, I lost the first game. I was like, girl, you won the series, though. You won the series.
She's killer's kill.
Could you have beat her?
Yeah.
They said it was a compliment. They said Reggie Miller was praising Caitlin Clark. But watch her face. That is the face of someone who just got disrespected on national television, and knew she couldn't say a word about it. And before you tell me I'm reaching, we got the receipts. Every single one of them. February 1st, 2026. Madison Square Garden. Caitlin Clark makes her NBC analyst debut. This should have been a celebration. The biggest star in women's basketball joining Hall of Famers on the biggest basketball stage in the world. Instead, it turned into an expose, not of Clark, but of every male analyst who pretends to care about women's basketball. They exposed themselves that night. And they don't even know it yet. Look at the headlines. They can't even keep the lie straight. Was she amazing? Was it awkward? Did Reggie compliment her or disrespect her? Here's the truth the mainstream media doesn't want you to know: they don't respect the WNBA. They don't respect these women. And their actions? They tell a completely different story than their words. So let me show you exactly what happened that night, and why it matters.
I remember my first WNBA game when I was a young girl. Now basically any arena you go to, it's sold out.
Let's be real. The WNBA didn't start when Caitlin Clark got drafted in 2024. But if you only watch ESPN, you'd think the league was invented that day. For decades, and I mean decades, these same networks ignored sold-out arenas. They ignored dynasty teams. They ignored Hall of Fame careers. Maya Moore, Breanna Stewart, Aya Wilson winning MVPs. The coverage? Crickets. Then Caitlin Clark shows up, white, straight, marketable, and suddenly they're all experts. Suddenly they care. Make it make sense. You remember Pat McAfee? June 2024. Called her the white B*TCH for the Indiana team on his ESPN show. He apologized for the slur, but he doubled down on the idea that Clark saved the WNBA. Like the league was drowning and she threw it a life raft. That's the narrative they're pushing. But then ESPN's Monica McNutt said what we were all thinking. She told Stephen A. Smith to his face, "Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to." Boom. Exposed him. Exposed all of them. CNN wrote an entire article about it. And I quote, "Clark has become male sportscasters' proxy in a league built primarily by black and LGBTQ athletes whom the mainstream felt fine skimming over in the past." They said the quiet part loud. Charles Barkley called WNBA veterans petty for playing physical defense on Clark. Told them they should thank that girl for getting them private charters. As if these women didn't earn everything they have. As if the league was waiting for a white savior to make it legitimate. And here's the kicker, even Caitlin Clark knows the league was thriving before her. Listen to what she said on NBC.
I remember my first WNBA game when I was a young girl. Now basically any arena you go to, it's sold out.
You hear that? Now basically any arena you go to, it's sold out. She's acknowledging the growth. She's not taking credit for inventing the WNBA. But the media? They're rewriting history right in front of us. And they think we're not paying attention. Alright. Now let's get into the moment that broke the internet. The Peyton Pritchard comparison. And I'm gonna break down exactly why this is so insulting, because some of y'all might not even realize how disrespectful this was. Reggie Miller gets asked, which NBA player does Caitlin Clark remind you of? And his answer? Peyton Pritchard. Let me walk you through why that's a problem. Caitlin Clark, 3,951 points in college. That is the all-time NCAA Division I scoring record. Not just women's, everybody. She's a two-time WNBA All-Star. In her rookie year, she led the entire league with 8.4 assists per game. She's the first player in WNBA history to record multiple triple-doubles in a debut season. Rookie of the Year. Do you understand the resume we're talking about? Now. Peyton Pritchard. Career role player. Averages 16.8 points. Just won 6th Man of the Year, and if you don't know what that award is, it's for the best player who comes off the bench. He doesn't even start for his team. That's who Reggie Miller compared her to. A bench player. Let that sink in. A Hall of Famer. Somebody who played the game at the highest level. Compared a generational, transformational superstar to a guy who's not even in his team's starting 5. How does that make sense? And you can see it in her face. The clip went viral for a reason. Watch her smile just disappear. That deadpan stare? That's not, ooh, I'm nervous on camera. That's recognition. She knows. She knows exactly what just happened. But what's she supposed to do? Call him out on live TV? She's a guest. She's got to sit there and take it. Now let's compare that to what Carmelo Anthony said. Melo said he sees Luka Doncic when he watches her. That's an appropriate comp. Luka is an MVP candidate. A superstar who carries a franchise. Somebody who dominates the game. That's the level Caitlin Clark is on. And Melo, who's also a Hall of Famer, got it. So why didn't Reggie? Either he doesn't actually watch the WNBA, or he doesn't think it's on the same level as the NBA. Either way, it's disrespectful. And the fans knew it immediately. Social media exploded. This is disrespectful. She looked pissed. Why would you compare her to a role player? Because these analysts don't respect the WNBA. They see Caitlin Clark as a novelty. A fun story. Not appear to the men they've been covering their whole careers. And Reggie Miller just told on himself. On live television. In front of millions of people. We got the... But it's not just Reggie Miller. This is a pattern. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let me bring you Exhibit B, Charles Barkley. Chuck went on TNT's Inside the NBA and said, and I quote, "Y'all are petty. Y'all should be thanking that girl for getting y'all private charters, all the money and visibility she brings into the WNBA. Let me unpack this." Charles Barkley called veteran WNBA players, champions, MVPs, women who've been carrying this league for years. He called them petty for playing physical defense on Caitlin Clark. In the NBA? That's called playoff basketball. That's called being competitive. But when women do it to Caitlin Clark, suddenly they're jealous haters who should be grateful. An article in Essence magazine broke it down perfectly. Victoria Uwumeragi wrote, "The expectations Barkley has of men are vastly different from those he has for women." Facts. Charles Barkley would never tell LeBron's opponents to thank him for making the league popular. He'd never call Steph Curry's rivals petty for fouling him hard. But when it's women? Different rules. And just to prove the point, let me show you the contrast. In the NBA, hard fouls are praised. Oh, that's playoff intensity. That's competitive fire. Draymond Green can scream in someone's face and it's passion. LeBron gets hit hard and the commentators say, that's just smart defense. But Chindi Carter bumps Caitlin Clark once, and the entire media has a meltdown. Pat McAfee goes on a rant. Charles Barkley calls them petty. Suddenly it's a moral crisis. The double standard is screaming at us. When men play hard, it's competitive fire. When women play hard, especially against Caitlin Clark, it's disrespect. It's jealousy. It's pettiness. Ask yourself, why? Why are the rules different? Why does Caitlin Clark need to be protected from the same physicality that NBA players face every single night? I'll tell you why. Because they don't see these women as athletes. They see them as something that needs to be handled with care. And that? Alright. We need to have an uncomfortable conversation. Because there's something happening here that nobody wants to say out loud. So I'm gonna say it. The mainstream sports media, ESPN, TNT, FS1, all of them, they don't care about the WNBA. They care about Caitlin Clark. And the reason? The reason is as obvious as it is uncomfortable. Pat McAfee said the quiet part loud when he called her the white B***TCH for the Indiana team. He apologized for using a slur, but he didn't apologize for the implication. That Caitlin Clark is the right kind of WNBA star for mainstream audiences. You see what I'm saying? CNN wrote an entire analysis piece, and I'm gonna read this to you word for word because it's important. Clark, a white, straight phenom, has become male sportscasters' proxy in a league built primarily by black and LGBTQ athletes whom the mainstream felt fine skimming over in the past. Let me say that again. Fine skimming over. Where was ESPN when Lisa Leslie was dominating? Where was the coverage when Cheryl Swoops was breaking records? Candace Parker. Maya Moore. Brianna Stewart. Aya Wilson winning back-to-back MVPs. Where were these analysts then? Where was the hype? The primetime slots? The respect? They weren't there. Because those women didn't look like someone the mainstream could market. They didn't fit the narrative these networks wanted to tell. And now? Now they've found their proxy. They've found a player they can project themselves onto. And when she doesn't play along? When Caitlin Clark praises the pioneers who came before her? When she centers the league instead of herself? They try to make her smaller. They compare her to bench players. They diminish her. This isn't about basketball analysis. This is about control. The media wants the WNBA to succeed on their terms. With their star. In their image. And if the league doesn't comply? If the players don't fall in line and play grateful? They get called petty. They get told to say, thank you. It's not journalism. It's colonization. And the receipts are everywhere.
I don't think it's just a big moment for the WNBA. I think there's a lot of boxes that we still need to check. There's a lot of things left to do, but I really do feel confident that both sides are going to reach a deal here.
While all this media circus is happening, while Pat McAfee is having meltdowns and Reggie Miller is making terrible comparisons, Caitlin Clark is doing what champions do. She's staying focused. Listen to how she talked about the CBA negotiations. I truly do believe we're going to get something done here in the next couple weeks. She's not taking the bait. She's not making it about her. She's centering the league. The players. The future. And at Team USA camp on February 4th, she said this is the biggest moment the WNBA has ever seen, and it's not something that can be messed up. Do you hear that? She's not claiming credit. She's not saying, I made the WNBA big. She's saying this moment is bigger than any one person. That's leadership. Meanwhile, the media is trying to use her as a weapon against the very league she's fighting for. And what does she do? She plays it smart. She joked on social media, I'm going to wear stilts next time, making fun of the height difference with Reggie and Melo. Turning an awkward moment into content. Then, when Peyton Pritchard hit a buzzer beater a few days later, she reacted to it on social media. She reclaimed the narrative. The message was clear, you want to compare me to Pritchard? Fine. I'm secure enough to celebrate his game. That's a masterclass in handling disrespect. She didn't fight back, she didn't go on a rant. She just kept moving. Kept being professional. Kept being herself. And you know what happened? NBC booked her again. March 29th, before the first broadcast even ended, they locked her in for another appearance. Sam Flood, the NBC executive producer, said, and I quote, there's no more iconic figure in basketball, in the game in general. She turned disrespect into leverage. She proved she's bigger than their nonsense. And that's why she's a superstar. But here's the thing about the internet. It sees everything. And the fans? They weren't buying the media's spin for 1 second. Social media exploded after that broadcast. And I'm talking thousands of comments. Let me read you some of these. You towered over these guys in knowledge, though. Never thought CC would look so short, but she made them look smaller. I wish Caitlin Clark was on NBC for the whole game. The Pritchard comparison was a downgrade. She looked pissed and she had every right to be. The fans defended her. They called out the disrespect in real time. Because unlike these analysts who just showed up 5 minutes ago, the fans actually watch women's basketball. They know what they saw. They know what happened. And it didn't stop there. The memes. The viral tweets. That clip of her deadpan stare. It got reposted thousands of times. Captioned, "When they compare you to a bench player." The internet turned it into a moment. One tweet alone got 22+ replies with people dissecting exactly why the Pritchard comparison was insulting. People were pulling up stats. Doing side-by-side breakdowns. The internet did the media's job for them. And you know what that tells me? The audience is smarter than these networks think. People aren't stupid. They see through the performance. They see through the fake praise that's really just diminishment in disguise. The receipts went viral. The truth spread. And the media? They got exposed. All because they underestimated Caitlin Clark, and they definitely underestimated her fans. So where do we go from here? Because this story is far from over. The WNBA is in the middle of CBA negotiations that could cancel the 2026 season. Caitlin Clark is navigating a labor dispute, a media circus, and trying to recover from an injury-plagued 2025 season where she only played 13 games. The pressure on her right now is unreal. Kelsey Plum, first vice president of the Players Association, said this on February 4th, "It's a little bit disheartening, just frustration in the negotiation and how far away we are. The stakes have never been higher. And the media? They're making it worse. They're turning Caitlin Clark into a symbol instead of letting her be a player. But here's my prediction. Caitlin Clark is going to rise anyway. You know why? Because she refuses to play their game. She's going to show up on March 29th for NBC. She's going to keep being professional. She's going to keep centering the league instead of herself. And when the season starts, she's going to dominate. And she's going to prove what the WNBA has always known, that greatness doesn't need permission from men who weren't even watching in the first place. If you want to see how this plays out, if you want to keep tracking every receipt, every lie, every moment the mainstream media tries to rewrite history, hit that subscribe button, because we're not letting them get away with it. This is Hoop Receipts. And we're just getting started.